If you can hear this, you're inside the last circle of working light. My name is Jack Rowley. I'm in the basement studio of WQKR 940 AM off West Grand Boulevard in Detroit. It is Wednesday, 5:42 AM. Eastern, cold enough that my lips feel numb when I breathe. The little clock above the mixer still keeps time, even though the other wall clocks froze on Sunday. Outside the loading bay door, there's a skin of frost on the dumpster lid. The wind keeps dragging grit across the asphalt like paper against sand. Power is dead on the block, except for the school 2 streets over, where the rooftop solar kept a few hall lights glowing through the night. I'm on a diesel generator that drinks more than I'd like. The tank reads just under a quarter. If you are hearing me in Cleveland, Toledo, Windsor, maybe as far west as Lansing if the skip is kind, you're tuned to 940 kilohertz. If the signal fades, slide a little left or right and listen for my voice. I'll keep repeating the time so you know you haven't picked up a recording. It's 5:43 AM. Eastern. The temperature here is about 28 degrees. The wind is steady from the northeast, and the sky, what little I saw at the door, is the dull blue that comes before sunrise. I didn't sleep, not in the way that counts. I closed my eyes on the floor next to the rack cabinet, jacket under my head, and counted in tens until I lost the thread, then woke 30 minutes later to the generator coughing. I'm telling you that so you know the pace I'm on. We're all on the same pace now. Short pieces of rest that don't do the job, and the same dream every time. I'm standing by the river, and the whole city is a black cutout against a red dawn that doesn't rise. If this is the first time you found me, here is what I know, and what I don't. 8 days ago, the first alerts went out just before dawn, and the sound they made on every phone in the building made my hands go slick. The first one said, "Shelter now." The second said, "National Command verify." The third, "Never finished." At 6:10 AM, there was a light in the north that didn't look like the sun or the moon. It came up from the horizon like someone had flipped a switch on the other side of the lake, and it spread out, wide and flat. And then the power snapped off across half the grid, and the station breaker fought itself and lost. For 10 minutes, we were blind. When backup came on, the first voice I heard on the emergency line was a traffic cop from down by the Ambassador Bridge. He said he could see a second sun and he was crying. Then he hung up. By noon, all the official stations that still had juice were reading the same bulletin in a dry, careful tone. You know the one. It said to stay indoors, to limit travel, to cover vents, to avoid rain if rain should fall. It said the government was in contact with allies. It said food and water distribution would begin in phases. It said, keep calm in the old way, as if those words were enough. But the line went quiet when we asked for details, and after that, I only heard the clicking sound that happens when a switchboard is alive, but no one is home. Since then, the map in my head has turned to torn paper. Chicago is a shadow with fires along the lake. Cleveland went from bright to dim in 2 days, then to a thin thread of lights near the clinic and the airport. And then nothing I can see without a scope. I got a weak relay last night saying Pittsburgh still talks on 13:20 AM, but only at dawn and dusk when the generator is cooler. Columbus is split. North side says they have a working hospital on High Street under the old OSU towers. South side says the guard swept the interstates and told people to keep off the bridges after dark because the steel holds heat and dust in the beams. I can't prove that. I'm passing the message. If you're new, you'll want a sense of the start. I do too, even now. The first sign was not the flash. It was the silence on the long-haul lines. I keep a scanner on the shelf that bleeds into the studio when the door is open. On the Saturday before the first alerts, the usual nighttime chatter on the land mobile band went thin and stayed thin. Truckers on I-75 were holding dead air between Lima and Findlay. The weather station in Saginaw kept cycling the same forecast without the little off-script jokes the guy sometimes slides in around midnight. There was a rumor that the FAA told traffic over the lakes to cut speed for an exercise, and you know how that goes. No one believes it until the notice to air missions shows up with a mile of black bars, and then everyone believes it too late. Sunday afternoon, we had a caller named Wes from Dearborn Heights who said his cousin at the assembly line had been told to stay home Monday without pay, and the message said, because of supply line uncertainty. I laughed when I heard it. I said, supply line is always uncertain. He didn't laugh. Then it was Monday. At 5:47 a.m., light is bleeding into the basement stairs like smoke. I keep the upstairs door shut, but I go up once an hour to stand in the hall with the fire extinguisher in case the generator decides to give me bad news. The hallway smells like dust and burned plastic. The little emergency lights died 2 days back, and someone tried to fix one with a wrong fuse, and it popped. The vending machine near the kitchen has a dent in it. I won't say who put the dent there. Hunger does things to your hands you don't plan. I've still got 5 cases of water and a box of oatmeal and a crate of canned beans. I'm telling you what I have so you can decide what you'll do if you come here. I won't turn you away if you knock while the sun is up. After dark, I can't open that door. I'm sorry. It has to be that way. You've asked for news more than reassurance, so I keep a sheet with the places that spoke to me in the last 12 hours. I'll read it now, the way I copied it, so the mistakes are mine. 20:05 last night, a woman named Lila in Grosse Pointe Park said her husband's Geiger counter, that's the old civil defense yellow box he keeps because he likes to fix things, clicked higher than normal near the downspouts after the snow melt. They moved the buckets inside. They wiped the dog's paws with wet cloth and changed their clothes at the door. They're sleeping in the basement, and they taped the vents. She sounded tired, but clear. She wanted to tell you not to step in meltwater where it pools in low spots along the curb. She said, if you have to, take your shoes off in the entry and leave them there. 2112, an old man named Francisco in Southwest, near Vernor, said he saw a convoy of 2 flatbed trucks and a Humvee move west on the lodge, no lights. The flatbeds had pallets, plastic wrapped. He thinks food. He said the second truck blew a tire, and they pulled it to the shoulder, and no one stopped to help, because no one wants to be close to anyone. They don't know anymore. 2240. A kid with a voice like he's still in high school called from Bloomfield, and whispered into the phone that the family across the street left their house for the first time in days, walked to their car in masks and gloves, put suitcases in the trunk, then took the suitcases out, then went back inside. He cried when he told me that. He said it looked like they were practicing leaving and couldn't. I had one call that is hard to say out loud without my voice shaking, but I'll say it because I promised I would not turn this into a song with the sharp parts filed down. 2325. A nurse named Ellie from St. Mary Mercy in Livonia said they had 6 people come in from a warehouse on Schoolcraft where someone told them there was a federal distribution point. She said there was no federal anything there. There were 2 men with clipboards who told people to queue by last name, A through L, M through Z. She said the men looked tired and scared. She said when people started to press up close, the men left, and then the group broke into the side door and found only desks and an empty break room. Ellie said they treated a cut hand, a broken wrist, and a man who took a mouthful of something from a rain barrel without thinking, and came in with a fever, She told me to tell you that if you boil water, you have to let it cool with a lid on. She said a woman brought in her little boy with burns because she boiled water on a propane stove and spilled it while she was shaking. My mouth is dry just saying that. As for the bigger picture, what the experts are saying, I don't have many experts left on my phone who answer. I had a professor from Ann Arbor who used to talk on our morning show sometimes, smart and careful, the sort of guy who says, I don't know, more than he says, trust me. He called me on Tuesday, day 2, from a basement office that still had power, and he said, Jack, if it came from the sky, if what you saw over the lake was what we think it was, then the way to think about risk is not fear of the bright flash, but fear of the dust that rides the wind after. He said, imagine the map as snow on a window, and a hand wiping it away in streaks. He said the safe zones would not be circles, but smears. He said to tell people to mind roofs and gutters, and to be careful with air filters, because the filter is only helpful if you change it before it turns into a rag full of what you don't want. He said a lot of quiet things, and then the call cut. I've left 4 messages since. No answer. I also spoke to a woman whose brother works with the Guard, or worked with them a week ago. She would not give me her last name, and I won't repeat the first. She said their orders were to keep main arteries clear, to move fuel from airport tanks to designated hospitals, to keep people out of low-lying underpasses where water collects. She said someone higher up told them to plan for 10 days without resupply. She said no one believed that at first, and then they believed it too much. She said the radios they use are fine when the towers are fine, and when the towers aren't, they pass notes like kids. She said don't drive at dawn or dusk if you can help it, because that's when they move the big loads and they don't want to hit anyone by mistake. Again, I can't verify it. Pass it through your own filter. The political lines are harder to read than the physical ones. On day 3, a voice that claimed to be from the State House went live on a handful of stations and said martial law was in effect, then corrected to state of emergency with law enforcement support. They said curfew was sunset to sunrise. They said stay in your homes. They said police and Guard would patrol. We saw 2 cruisers on Woodward that day, one northbound, one southbound, windows up, no siren, and then nothing after midnight but the whistle of the wind between glass towers. The city issued a map of warming centers and water pickup on day 4. Half of those addresses are dark now. The mayor's office line burns with a recorded loop. We are working to restore essential services. Check on neighbors. Do not crowd hospitals unless you face life-threatening conditions, I will say this, and you can judge it. I think they are doing what they can, with what they have, and what they have is thin. I think there are rooms where brave people sit under blue light and try to write plans that don't break the world more than it is already broken. I also think there are rooms where nobody sits because they couldn't get there. It is 5:59 a.m., and the sky through the stairwell window is turning from dull blue to a gray that shows the smoke trails over the river. The wind is pushing low cloud south. If you're in downriver, you'll feel it first. Keep your vents taped. If you smell a burned metal odor when the wind shifts, it might not be your neighbor's generator. I know the smell test is not a real test. I know smell is a terrible tool for things you can't see, but it's what we have besides common sense and each other's words. If you have a paper mask, you can put it on, not because it solves everything, but because it is better than nothing when the air outside is loose with grit. If you have a proper filter mask, save it for when you have to go out. Put your water in bottles with lids. Don't leave buckets open by the back door. If you have a basement with a concrete floor, sleep there. If your basement feels damp, lay down plastic. trash bags cut open and taped, beneath your bedding, and keep your blankets in a high bin when you're not using them. These are not rules from a book. These are things I've learned from listeners and from the old pamphlets we keep in a drawer that suddenly matter again. I'm going to tell you what I did last night because maybe it helps. At 2:10, I took a call from a man named Daryl on the east side near Mac. He said the radio on his kitchen shelf ran out of batteries, and the store he thought about walking to had its front doors chained from the inside. He asked me if I had any spare batteries. I have 2 packs of AAs, and one of them was half open from before all this, when the smoke detector on the 3rd floor wouldn't stop chirping. I told him I had AAS, and he said his radio takes D cells. I told him to find a string and a small bolt or a coin. He asked why. I told him to wrap foil around a AA to build it up in a D-shaped adapter, then put a coin on the bottom to touch the spring. I told him it might get warm, and to keep an eye on it, and that it wouldn't last long, but it might get him an hour of sound. He tried it while he was on the phone. He said, "I hear you." He started to cry, and then he said, "I'm sorry," and he hung up. It made me think about how we're all building bridges out of what we have, foil, coins, whatever, and how sometimes the bridge is enough to get the weight across, and sometimes it isn't. We're going to take calls again today in a careful way. The phone line that works best for me is the one labeled Studio B. It's tied to an old copper run that somebody forgot when they modernized the building. If the line is open, I'll say Studio B Live, and you can give your first name and street or neighborhood. If your phone feels warm against your ear, hang up and let it rest. If you have a hand radio on the GMRS channels, try channel 17. No privacy code. I'll check it on the hour and the half. If I'm not there, wait 1 minute and try again. If you have nothing but your lungs, go to your window and look at the sky and decide if today is the day to stay still or move 2 blocks because you need water. Then do it slow. We're past the point where speed saves us. Now it's careful that saves us. I promised you I'd talk about the first spark that made me think this was more than a big scare. It wasn't the flash. It wasn't the first night or the second. It was day 3, late morning, when I walked up Grand River to check on the little pharmacy where the owner knows my name. The street was empty of cars because no one wants to burn gas unless there's a reason. I passed a bus that had been parked across 2 lanes the wrong way, doors open. No one inside. The pharmacy door was half open and the bell above it had been pulled off and lay on the mat. I called out. No answer. The shelves had been turned so the back faced the room, and someone had written "closed for restock" on the wall with a marker. There was no restock coming. I went to the back where the light still worked on a battery and found a note taped to the fridge. It said, "We'll be at the school gym. If you need insulin, find us there at noon." It's signed with a name I won't say. It was written in the owner's careful hand, the way he writes when he is filling a label. It made me feel 2 things at once: that people were trying, that they were still doing the work that keeps others alive, and that the center had come loose. In the gym, I found a table with 3 coolers and a nurse with a list, and a line of people 6 feet apart, like old times. When the clock on the wall hit noon, she started handing out vials. When the second cooler was down to 2 vials, a man in a leather jacket argued about the order, and another man put his hand on his shoulder and said, "Brother, we'll figure it out." I watched the nurse circle names and shake her head and tell people to come back tomorrow. I don't know if tomorrow will bring anything. I know there was a circle of hands around that table that made me think we still have a chance if we remember how to use our hands to hold and not just to take. It is 6:18 a.m. Eastern. The generator is running a little rough. I've turned off the hallway lights to save fuel. If the signal gets thin in the next hour, that's me stepping out to bleed the line and add a little fuel. If I don't come back in 3 minutes, it's because I tripped on the black cable by the door again and hit my knee on the metal edge and said a word I'll regret to my mother if she can hear me from wherever she is. You know now, I'm a man alone in a big building with a box that makes a hum and a wire that throws my voice into the dark. But I'm not really alone. I have a stack of handwritten notes from people you don't know and people you do. On top of that stack is a paper from a woman named Ava in Ferndale. She wrote in neat block letters and underlined the same word twice, like she was pressing it into wood. We took our baby to the stairwell because there were no windows there. We sang softly. We heard someone else singing 1 floor below. We decided the sound of that person kept us from breaking. If you're on a staircase right now, if you're in a hallway that smells like old paint and concrete, hum anything you remember from before. The sound won't fix the world, but it will fix your breath. I know you want more concrete. I'll give you what I can without turning rumor into news. The east winds mean anything that fell over the lakes drifts toward us, and then toward Ohio. That's today. Tomorrow the wind could turn. If you have a map, draw an arrow from Port Huron through the city and down along the Ohio border. That arrow is your guide today for which way to face your home when you crack a window to let steam out from boiling water. Crack a window on the side away from the wind. Keep fans off. If you have a box fan with a filter taped to it from the old virus days, you could run it on low for a while, but watch the filter and change it if it turns gray. Don't shake it indoors. Don't wash it in the sink. Wrap it in a bag and put it outside. If you find a mask in the back of a drawer and the elastic is shot, tie it behind your head with string. If you need to go out, pick a time between 10 and 2, when the ground is dry and the air is a little stiller. Wear a hat. When you come back, put your coat in a bag by the door and leave your shoes on a mat. Wipe your floor with damp cloth and throw the cloth away outside. If you have pets, keep them off the sofa after a walk until you wipe their paws. You will feel silly wiping a dog's paws. Do it anyway. I got a second-hand message through a ham relay from a man in Erie. He said they still have a low-power transmitter on the bayfront. He said the guard there has a tight circle around a warehouse with pallets. He said they're giving out bottled water at noon and 4 with a limit per household. He said people who show up with neighbors can pool rations if they write it down on a clipboard. He said older folks go to the front. I can't say if that's true in other cities. I can say, if you run a pickup point, put the older folks first. It will make you feel like you've made a dent in the day. We should talk about the word rain. I haven't seen it since day 1. Just a few times the sky spit and then stopped. If rain comes, don't stand in it. Don't collect it in open barrels without lids. Don't let it run off your roof into the garden, and then pick the leaves wet and eat them raw. If you have to go out in rain, wear something with a slick surface and shake it off outside when you come back. People will tell you different rules. They will say, it's fine now, the worst is past, or it's all poisoned forever. Neither is true. There are safe pieces inside dangerous days. There are dangerous minutes inside safe hours. We navigate by what we can see and what we can measure. If you have no measure, use the simplest rule, and you will be right more often than not. Dry is safer than wet. Distance is safer than closeness. Slow is safer than fast. You've also asked for the kind of news that doesn't fit in a list. The big rumors. Here they are, with the doubt that belongs to them. Some people say the federal line running under the old FEMA office in the city is live between 7 a.m. and 7:10 a.m. every morning, and that if you get on at the right moment with the right tone, you can speak to a person who will ask you to read numbers from your driver's license and then tell you to wait for a truck that never comes. Some people say a convoy moved out of Selfridge with tankers and that they were headed west to Ann Arbor and then south to Toledo, and that they stopped at the interchange because the road ahead was blocked by a pileup. Some people say the big talkers on shortwave are moving south, talking about Tennessee and Georgia and places even farther, and that the air down there smells sweet and the rivers run clear. But the ones who say that never give a call. Sign that checks out. Some people say this started because someone made a mistake with a warning, and then someone else pushed a button they promised they'd never push. And some people say this started because a general wrote something on a pad in a room with no windows, and then folded it in half and put it in the wrong pocket. I don't know. I used to think you could tell the truth by the shape of a voice. I was wrong. The only truth I can trust is the sigh someone makes when they talk about their father, or the way people swallow at the end of a sentence when they say the name of their street. Everything else is a coin flip. I'm going to keep giving you times because times are anchors. It is 6:41 a.m. I have a hand on the generator choke because it's running lean. While I hold it, I'm going to read you 3 short notes and 1 long one. First short. Name's Cody. I'm in Trenton by the steel plant. We took apart the garage door opener and used the motor to run a bike light so the kids don't get scared when we go down the stairs. If anyone has old roller skate bearings, the guy on our block will trade for canned soup. That tells me people are still trading, which is a kind of heartbeat. Second short. Tasha from Warren. Please tell people the fire station on 12 Mile is handing out little bags of something that looks like sand. They told us to put a thin layer on the floor by the door to catch dust, then sweep it and toss it every night. It helps. I think that might be cat litter. It tracks fine dust. If you have some, try it by the entry. Third short. Old man in E-course. I buried my Geiger counter in the shed in 1978 when my wife told me to stop being scared. Dug it up. It still clicks. Battery was dead. I made a battery out of pennies and vinegar. It worked. Please tell my wife she was right about the garden. We never needed so much. If you are the wife, your husband loves you in a way that makes me jealous. The long note is from a man named Ahmed in Dearborn. He wrote on lined paper in a messy rush. Jack, 3 days ago, a man knocked on my door and said his aunt needed her insulin kept cold. He had a small cooler with 2 packs of blue ice, and they were melting. We had no power. I remembered I could make a swamp cooler with a towel and a bowl. I put the insulin in a jar, wrapped the jar in a wet towel, put it in a metal bowl, and put it where the air from under the door was coming through the crack. I changed the towel every hour. I don't know if it helped, but the aunt did not get worse. Tell people to do what they can with what they have. Tell them the word for today is not perfect. It is enough, Ahmed. If you can hear me, you did good. I'm thinner than I was when this began. The mirror in the bathroom upstairs has a crack and a gray stripe down the right side. When I lean in, I see a face that looks like my father's when he was too tired to drive home after second shift. I don't say that to make you feel anything for me. I say it because I need you to know the voice on your radio is not a hero and not a ghost. I'm a person in a room trying to keep a coil of wire hot enough that words can leap. I get angry. I snapped at a caller yesterday who wanted me to say everything was going to be fine by Friday. I wanted to give him that sentence the way a doctor wants to give a child a lollipop, but I didn't have it in me. When I hung up, I put my head against the desk and cried for the first time since day one. Then I stood up and made a cup of weak coffee on the camping stove and watched the steam and told myself I would not lie just because the truth hurts. If you need someone to lie to you for a minute so you can tie your shoes and face the door, tell yourself a story about Sunday dinners and football on TV and someone laughing in the kitchen. Then open the door and do the next small thing anyway. There's a man named Jonah in Pontiac who calls me at weird hours. He used to work on cell towers. He told me something I keep turning over in my head. He said, "Jack, when a storm hits, the tower that stays up isn't always the one with the strongest steel. It's the one with the cables that were checked last week and the bolts that were tightened by a guy who wasn't in a rush. He said we were all towers and storms were always coming, and the ones of us who were still standing after this would not be the ones with the biggest muscles or the deepest pockets, but the ones who, the week before, cleaned their gutters and called their sister and knew where the flashlight was. If you're standing, even if you're shaking, it's because you did some small, boring things. Do a few more today. Check the tape on the window frame. Write down the names of the people in the house and their birthdays and any allergies. Put that paper in a plastic bag. If someone has medicine, write down the dose and the time they take it. When you're tired later, you will be glad you have the paper. It is 7:03 a.m. Eastern. I'm opening Studio B. If you have something to say, call now. If it drops, try again. If the line is busy, it's because it's real, not because we don't care. I'll say the number once and then never again. You know why. Studio B Live. Name's Maria, West Toledo. We've been listening through an old car radio we brought inside. We ran a wire to the fence for an antenna. It helped. My husband went out yesterday and came back with milk, and I told him we don't need milk, we need cans, and he said he wanted to bring me something that tastes like the old days. I yelled, and then I felt bad. Tell people to be kind when they can. Maria, thank you. You're right. Car radios make good receivers. Bring them inside. Use a spare battery if you have one, and trickle charge it with a small panel if you can. Studio B Live. This is Joe Hamtramck. I'm a janitor. I got keys to buildings nobody is in. I found a case of filters in the school basement labeled MERV 13. I don't know what that means, but I think they're good. I'm going to trade them for food from my block. That okay? Joe, that's more than okay. That's how we make a block into a town and a town into a city again. Filters with numbers like that. Grab the small stuff. Cut them to fit if you have to. Tape them in a box fan. Run them on low. Studio B Live. This is Nadine, downriver. The river looks wrong. Not the color. The way it moves. It's slower. Is that real? Nadine. Water changes when the wind stays from one direction and when stuff you can't see rides on top. If it looks wrong, treat it like it is. Take from a tap that pulls from a city main if the main still runs and boil it. If you must take from the river, take from the middle with a long-handled thing and let it settle in a bucket before you boil, then pour off the top. Don't scrub the inside of the bucket after. Let the silt layer hold the bad for the next pour. That's not science like the book, but it's what my grandmother did when the pump broke on the farm. Studio B Live. Name is Vince Windsor. We can hear you loud. City says we gotta stay put. You say the same? Vince, I say this. Move when you must. Not when you're bored or scared. Move in daylight. Move short. Write a note and tape it to your door saying where you went and when, so someone who loves you will not tear their hands on your lock when you don't answer. I'm going to close the line for 10 minutes to let the generator cool. While I do, I'll leave you with a picture from my walk yesterday around the block, which I know I wasn't supposed to take but did, because my brain was running too fast in a small room. There's a mural on the wall of the old auto shop behind the station, a city skyline with a river under it, and a giant hand holding a wrench. Someone added to it with chalk. They drew a little radio tower on the far right, small, with lines coming out like a crown. They wrote, "Turn us back on." Below that, someone else wrote, "We never turned off. We're right here." If you're right here, if your radio is warm and your tea is hotter than the air, if your window shows a slice of new light, hold on to that. I can't tell you when the big lights come back. I can tell you that the little ones are already burning. Candles in stairwells, phones lifting in windows to catch a bar, car radios on kitchen tables, two men arguing over a cooler and then apologizing, a kid rinsing the dog's paws with a cup. I can tell you that is a city. I can tell you that is us. It is 7:22 a.m. Eastern. I'll be back in 2 minutes. If the signal thins, I'm in the hall with a fuel can. If it stays strong, I did not spill it. If you have a pencil, sharpen it. If you have a plan, say it out loud. If you have no plan, take a breath and pick one small, good thing. Tape a window. Boil water. Fold a blanket. We're still here. Studio B live again. One more before the hour. This is Henry from Redford. I work nights. Or I did. I saw a line on the horizon earlier, like the sky had a seam. Is that the plume? Henry, I've seen the seam too. It's where the cold air sits on the warm air and the stuff we don't want rides the layer between. If the seam moves toward you, stay inside. If it moves away, use the time. That's as close to science as I can get without the man from Ann Arbor telling me I got it wrong. We will take better measures when we have better tools. Right now, our tool is our eyes. The hour is almost here. I'll say the frequency again for anyone twisting a dial in a dark kitchen, hoping for a voice. WQKR 940 AM, Detroit. My name is Jack Rowley. It is 7:29 a.m. The wind is steady, the temperature is rising a little, and the city is quiet, in that way that makes every small sound feel like it belongs to you. If you've just joined, I'll keep saying the time, because that means someone living is watching a clock. If you've been with me since I started talking, you know what comes next. We keep going. I'll keep reading names and streets and little fixes that make bad mornings a little less bad. I'll keep holding the line when it shakes, and when I can't, when the fuel is low or the air outside is not air you should breathe, I'll tell you before I go quiet. I won't leave you with a loop or a lie. It is 7:30 a.m. We're still here. It's 7:31 a.m. Eastern, and the hum under my feet is uneven again. Every time the generator dips, my stomach drops with it. That sound, it's become the heartbeat of this place. When it slows, I start counting between pulses, waiting to see if the next one will come. I walked upstairs 10 minutes ago to pour the last of last night's coffee through a filter twice. The hallway light flickered on the stairs. Just one of those little bulbs that refuses to die, even after everything else. The wind outside has picked up. The frost on the window looks like veins now, spreading, branching. Across the street, the billboard for the car dealership still hangs, half bent from the first shockwave. You can just make out the words, "Drive into the future." I look at that every morning. I keep thinking how the future drove into us instead. Before the signal fades again, I want to read you something that came through at 5 a.m. from the Southern Relay near Dayton. It's short, but it means something. Broadcast at low power until further notice. Civilians are advised to conserve food, limit generator use, and stay sheltered from fallout. Federal coordination ongoing. Expect unstable atmospheric readings over the next 72 hours. That's the same message I heard 3 days ago. Same cadence, same errors, same static in the middle of the word ongoing. Either they've recorded it to play on a loop, or they don't have new words to say. But there's a detail that's new. Unstable atmosphere. You can feel it when you breathe. The air seems thicker, slower. Not smoke, not fog. Like the sky forgot what it's supposed to do. A listener named Ruth in Ann Arbor called just before dawn. She said her thermometer read 71 indoors when she went to bed, and 58 when she woke up, with every window closed. She thought the furnace died. It hadn't. The pilot was still lit. She said the air itself felt wrong, like it wasn't holding heat. She asked if that's radiation. I don't know. I told her to stay low, seal what she can, breathe slow, and call back when the sun is up. You start noticing the little things now. The way the sound of the wind changes pitch as it hits a building. The way metal creaks like it's tired. There's a frequency underneath everything, a faint ringing. Maybe it's just my ears. Maybe it's the grid itself trying to wake back up. It's 7:40 a.m. now. The streets are empty, but not silent. From time to time, there's a thud. Metal on metal. Maybe something falling. Maybe someone working. I don't look anymore. There's comfort in not knowing exactly what's out there. If you're just tuning in, I'm Jack Rowley, still here on WQKR 940 AM, Detroit. If the signal skips or fades, ride the static. I'll come back. Now, about the call I got last night from someone claiming to be part of the emergency logistics unit. He wouldn't give a name, just a badge number that didn't sound right. He said the cities that still have power are tiered, that the top 5 grids get priority diesel until the tanks run dry, and everyone else is left to self-sustain. His voice cracked on that phrase, self-sustain. You could tell he didn't believe it either. He said something else, that there were zones of silence forming, whole counties where radio signals bounce back instead of through. He said they think it's atmospheric distortion from multiple detonations, said the static might last for years. I don't know if I believe him, but I can tell you this. Every day, I scan the shortwave bands from 5 to 15 megahertz, and every day there are fewer voices. Last night, I counted 3. One was Polish, one was Spanish, one was... I don't know. It sounded like prayer, but broken by the hum of a dying transmitter. I had a message on the line when I woke up. Someone recorded it overnight. Jack, this is Tommy from Flint. I found an old ham kit in my uncle's garage. Got it running on a car battery. If you read this, tell people not to head north. The lakeshore is glowing at night, not firelight. Different, like it's alive. The fish float to the top in the morning, and they look like glass. Tommy, if you're still listening, don't go near the shore again. Stay inland. Dig a shallow trench and use it to burn trash, not wood from the ground. The soil near the water might not be safe. It's strange how quickly we start thinking like this, measuring distance by danger, not miles. I remember before the war, when the traffic report used to name every bottleneck on the freeway, like it was the worst thing that could happen to a city. Now the roads are wide open, and it feels worse. You never realize how much comfort there is in inconvenience until it's gone. I keep hearing about the convoy. Some say it's military, others say it's a group of civilians with stolen fuel trucks heading west. Every rumor puts it in a different place: Toledo, Fort Wayne, Gary, Chicago. Maybe it's real, maybe it's a ghost story to keep hope alive. Either way, people need something to picture moving, something that's not just smoke. And I'll tell you this: I'd rather believe in a convoy than a crater. 7:51 a.m. now. The light outside is pale orange. No sun, just a haze. I can't tell if that means the cloud cover broke, or if it's just another layer of dust in the sky catching what's left of the morning. A letter slid under the door last night. No envelope, just a folded sheet. It said, "Jack, my name's Elise. I live 6 blocks east. My husband's gone to find our daughter near Wayne State. If you hear anything from that side, please say her name, Naomi, so he knows she's alive. Please keep talking, even when there's nothing left to say. Elise, if you're listening, Naomi, if you're anywhere near the campus, the world still has ears. Someone still hears your name." There's a pause in my mind when I read messages like that. You think you'll get used to it, but you don't. Every new name is another reminder that what's left of humanity fits inside the silence between frequencies. It's 7:58 a.m. Eastern. I can hear the generator sputtering again, so I'll end this block with one thought before I step away. If you're holed up somewhere right now, maybe in a basement, maybe in a car, maybe listening through the hum of old wires, remember this: if you can still hear a human voice, the world isn't finished yet. Not today. I'll be back after the hour. Keep your radios on low power. Conserve your batteries. This is Jack Rowley, WQKR, 940 AM. 7:59 AM, still standing. 8:02 a.m. Eastern. The generator caught again. I hit it with the wrench and whispered a prayer to nobody in particular. The hum came back, thin but steady. That's the sound of survival now. Not words, not sirens, just a hum. Outside, the light has a strange texture. It's bright enough that I can see the street signs again, but everything looks coated in chalk. The shadows aren't black anymore, they're gray, like the world's been drawn in pencil. Someone left a note on the gate last night, scrawled in marker on cardboard from a cereal box. It said, "The air feels thicker after midnight. We can't sleep. Is it safe to light candles?" If you're the one who wrote that, yes, it's safe enough to burn candles if you keep them away from the windows, and only for a little while. Don't burn too many at once. The flame eats oxygen faster than you think, especially when you're sealed inside. Keep the wick short, and snuff it when your eyes start to sting. I used to think the smell of wax was peaceful. Now it smells like time running out. I checked the scanner again. Most frequencies are empty, but around 7:40 I caught a burst, 3 tones and a faint voice repeating numbers. It sounded automated. 9, 3, 6, Alpha, 4, 9, 3, 6, Alpha, 4. Then silence. The numbers came from a federal band. Either it's a beacon or a leftover test looping through dead air. If you pick it up too, write it down. Don't try to decode it. Just keep record. History will need proof that someone was still talking. A call came through at 6 a.m. from a man in Lansing named Curtis. He said the sky glowed green at the edges for a few minutes, like an aurora, only thicker. Said he felt his hair rise on his arms before it faded. He asked if that means the radiation's moving again. I told him the truth. I don't know. But I remember what the Ann Arbor professor told me. That sometimes the particles in the upper air dance when the magnetic field gets punched. It could be that. it could be something else. But if you see the sky glow, stay inside. That's all I can say. 8:09 a.m. now. The wind has shifted south. That means the dust from Lake Erie might start pushing inland by noon. Cover the vents before then. Tape the keyholes if you can. I've been marking down every power flicker I notice across the band. Yesterday, Cincinnati blinked on for 40 minutes. Streetlights, a few buildings, then gone again. The pattern makes me think somebody's rationing the grid, turning it on city by city for an hour to keep certain systems alive. Maybe data centers, maybe comms. Or maybe it's just ghosts in the wire, current bleeding through cracked lines. If you still have solar, protect it. Cover one panel during the day, so you'll have a clean one if ash falls. Don't wash the panels with unfiltered water. Just brush the layer off when it's dry. I had a dream just before I woke up. I was sitting in this same chair, same microphone, only the air outside was golden, not gray. You could hear kids playing somewhere beyond the wall, and a bell was ringing. A real one, from a school. Then I looked at the clock, and it said the same time. It says now. 8:11 a.m. The dream ended with the hum of this generator. Maybe that's my brain trying to trick me into remembering a world that still has mornings. We lost contact with the Pittsburgh relay overnight. It had been rebroadcasting civilian channels through a repeater west of the river. Now, it's dead. That leaves Dayton, Erie, and one low-power signal in Grand Rapids. Every time one drops off the dial, the static grows thicker, like the silence is learning how to fill space. I keep thinking about a woman who called 3 days ago. Her name was June, from Bowling Green. She said her radio picked up a voice on 27.185 megahertz CB, whispering in what sounded like Morse but wasn't. She asked if it was safe to answer. I told her not to. Not because I think there's danger in it, but because sometimes answering the dark just makes it talk louder. 8:16 a.m. Eastern. The sun, if you can call it that, is trying to push through the haze. The light hits the broken windows across the street and scatters into dust. It looks like glitter if you don't know what it is. A few of you wrote asking how long food in cans lasts if the label's gone. Here's the rule. If it's swollen, throw it out. If it hisses when you open it and smells like sour metal, throw it out. Otherwise, heat it before you eat it, even if it's fruit. Use a candle or a camp stove. You'll save yourself the fever later. Someone else asked if it's okay to eat snow. Number. Not unless you melt it first and strain it through cloth. Even then, be careful where it fell. The first layer of snow after the flash carried dust. If it's gray or yellow at the top, dig deeper or leave it. 8:22 a.m. now. I can feel my throat tightening. Talking this long makes it dry. I have one last cup of clean water for today. After that, it's what's left in the cooler. I'm saving the filter cartridges for emergencies, and everything feels like an emergency lately. There was a time when I could go 8 hours on air, drink coffee, laugh with callers, and go home to silence. Now silence is the thing I fight. I fill it with words, so I don't have to hear the nothing pressing in. Last night, I turned off the radio for an hour, just to see what it felt like. The building groaned in the wind. The ceiling ticked from the heat of the generator below. And then, a sound I hadn't heard in days, a dog barking far away. It barked 3 times and stopped. I nearly cried, not because it meant safety, because it meant something still breathes out there. If that was your dog, feed it whatever you have. 8:28 a.m. Eastern. Before I pause to rest the generator, I want to read something someone left in the inbox. A handwritten note slipped through the side window. It says, "Jack, my name is Paul. I used to work at the radio tower off Merriman Road. The backup transmitter there is still functional. If you're hearing this, I can boost your range another 50 miles if we sync frequencies. I'll send tone bursts at noon. If you hear them, answer back. Paul, if you're listening, I'll be on at noon, tuned and waiting. If you can lift our voices even one more county out, do it. I'll keep the mic warm until then. This is Jack Rowley, WQKR 940 AM Detroit, 8:29 AM. We're still here. 8:32 AM Eastern. The clock hand trembles like it's tired of counting. I'm starting to think everything mechanical has a kind of soul, one that's worn thin now, like ours. The hum beneath the floor is steady again, but it doesn't sound right. It's lower, heavier, like the diesel's starting to choke on its own fumes. I'll let it run until it begs me to stop. I keep a small notebook beside the console. The cover used to be red. Now it's brown with dust. Every day since the first flash, I write the date, the time, the temperature, rough guesses now, and one thing I still believe in. Day 1, I wrote reason. Day 2, mercy. Yesterday, coffee. This morning, I wrote voices, because hearing yours makes this place feel less like a tomb. At 8:20, I picked up a weak signal on the emergency band, distorted, but it came through twice. A man saying, "Convoy eastbound, 96 corridor, 24 vehicles. Repeat, 24. He didn't say where they were heading. Could be food, could be evac, could be soldiers, could be nothing but ghosts on repeat. But if it's real, and they're moving east, that means someone's still organizing, someone's still giving orders. The roads are dangerous now, not because of what's on them, but because of how empty they feel. Yesterday, a woman named Claire from Monroe said she walked 3 miles on I-75 without seeing another car. Not a single one. She said it felt like walking through history after it's been erased. She said every mile marker looked like a gravestone. I told her to keep off the highway after dark. The blacktop holds radiation longer than grass, and the sound of footsteps carries too far in silence. She thanked me, then asked if I thought her husband might still be in Toledo. I didn't answer fast enough. Sometimes silence hurts more than the truth. It's 8:39 AM now. The air in here is thin. You start to feel it in your teeth first. The pressure, the kind of stillness that makes you think the world stopped spinning for half a second. I opened the door to the stairwell to let it breathe. The cold rolled in like fog. I still see things moving outside. Not people. Reflections. The kind that make you think someone's walking just beyond sight. Maybe it's the wind. Maybe it's the heat distortion from the fires still burning out west of the river. I tell myself that. Yesterday, a man named Nathan called from Windsor across the water. His voice was shaking. He said he saw flashes, white at first, then orange, south of London, Ontario. Said it looked like the horizon had caught fire. The connection broke before I could ask more. If anyone in Ontario can hear me, confirm if the sky to your south still glows after dark. We need to know how far the line of fire runs. I want to read something else now. A letter I found slipped under the station door. It's dated day 7, written in careful cursive. Jack, my name is Ruth. I'm 72. My husband was a ham operator back in the Cold War. He built a bunker under our garage with 2 cots, a filter fan, and a shortwave set. When he died, I filled it with boxes of preserves and forgot about it. Now I'm back in there, and the fan still works. If you read this on air, tell the people. You don't need hope to keep living. Just habit. Hope comes back later when you've done the work. Ruth, if you're listening, you're wiser than most governments. Habit keeps the world alive when belief runs out. I used to think talking was my habit. Now I think listening is. Every time I open this mic, I wait for that faint hiss before the voice. Proof that the airwaves aren't empty. It's 8:46 a.m. Eastern. The city's waking up in strange ways. Somewhere nearby, a car alarm's been looping for hours, echoing through the hollow towers. You can't tell where it's coming from anymore. It's bouncing between the glass. At first, it annoyed me. Now I think it's the closest thing to a heartbeat this block has left. There's something else, something I haven't said on air yet. On the third night, I climbed the roof to look toward the west. I shouldn't have, but I needed to know if the horizon was still there. The sky was copper, the air sharp. I saw what looked like a beam, thin, white, reaching straight up from the ruins of the GM Renaissance Center. For a moment, I thought it was light reflecting off broken windows, but it wasn't steady. It pulsed, 3 beats, then dark, then again. It hasn't happened since, but sometimes at night when I look west, I see the sky flicker. Could be the atmosphere. Could be something else. If you're anywhere near downtown and can confirm, do it safely. I need to know if I imagined it. The clock says 8:52 a.m. A caller came through while I was reading Ruth's letter. Her name was Lorna from downriver. She said the radio tower lights are blinking again, red dots climbing up the skyline. I told her to count how long they stay lit. She said, "They don't blink evenly." That worries me more than if they were just dark. Uneven lights mean partial current, enough to wake circuits, not enough to control them. That can fry transmitters, or worse, arc into gas lines. If you're near a tower and hear humming metal, move away. You learn things fast in times like this. How sound travels, how light bends, how fragile the machines that carry our voices are. You start thinking of electricity as something alive, something that wants to escape. 8:57 a.m. Eastern. There's a kind of quiet right now that I can't describe. Like the city's holding its breath. Even the wind has stopped scratching the metal siding. Every time it gets like this, something changes. The air, the light, or the noise from far off. If you're listening, don't leave yet. Stay through the silence. I think something's coming. It's strange, isn't it? How the world can end, and yet mornings still arrive. Not as they used to, but enough to remind you there's another hour to fill. This is Jack Rowley, 9:40 a.m. Detroit. It's 8:59 a.m. The hum beneath me still holds. The city hasn't fallen all the way yet. 9 a.m. Eastern. The minute hand twitches forward, then stays. It's colder now, the kind of cold that doesn't sting but settles, slow and sure, like dust. The studio walls sweat from the temperature shift, and every sound feels amplified. The creak of the chair, the scratch of pencil on paper, the faint hiss in the mic. A little after dawn, I heard the first real explosion in 3 days. Not close, but not far either. It came from the direction of the freeway, east toward the river. The echo rolled through the blocks like thunder dragging chains. It rattled the ceiling tiles and woke the pigeons on the roof. I stepped outside, against my better judgment, and watched the skyline. A bloom of smoke climbed up, fat and black. But what scared me most was how it hung there, didn't drift, didn't fade, just stayed, like the sky refused to swallow it. If you're on the east side and you can see that column, don't go near it. There's nothing left worth finding where smoke doesn't move. A message came through at 8:42 from a ham relay near Sandusky. The operator, call sign Kilo 9 Mike, said Lake Erie's water level dropped overnight, just a few inches, but enough that the piers are exposed where they weren't yesterday. He said it smells like sulfur now. If the lake is boiling from underneath, we're looking at contamination spreading faster than anyone predicted. Keep away from open water. Don't fish. Don't swim. Don't even let your pets drink it. It's 9:04 a.m. now. The light is orange-gray, like a cigarette ember through fog. I keep catching myself staring at the horizon, waiting for motion that never comes. There used to be cars, buses, planes, tiny dots moving against the clouds. Now the sky's just still. When nothing moves for this long, your mind starts inventing movement. The last civilian plane I saw was on day 4. It flew west to east, low, slow, dragging a line of white vapor that glowed faint blue. I think about that sometimes. Whoever was inside it, what they saw looking down, whether they knew the world below was breaking. I had a call at 8:50 from a man who didn't give his name. Said he was near Kalamazoo. Said he heard a broadcast on 7:10 a.m. that sounded like government code, but every few seconds a different voice whispered over it. Not words, just breaths. He swore it wasn't feedback. I told him to record it if it happens again, but use headphones. He said he would, then he hung up before I could thank him. 9:08 a.m. Eastern. My throat's dry again. I keep forgetting to ration water when I talk. There's a tin mug beside me, half full, tastes like metal, but it's warm from sitting near the console. Warm water used to mean comfort. Now it just tastes like the inside of the earth. Someone taped another note to the door this morning. I didn't hear them knock. It was written on the back of a grocery receipt. Jack, do you think it's over? My husband says this is just the start, that more bombs are waiting. Please answer on air. Please tell us if we should leave the city. I wish I could give you certainty. I can't. Every government transmission I've heard since day 5 has been automated. The words stabilization effort repeat every 6 hours. That means either they've lost control or they're hiding until control returns. Either way, no one's coming soon. If you're thinking of leaving Detroit, wait until nightfall. Pack light, move quiet, and head northwest if you can. Not south, not toward the water. If you find a working car, drive only when the wind's calm. Watch the birds. If they're still, you stay still too. That's a better compass than any GPS right now. I had a voice message from 3 a.m. A child whispering, "We can see the stars again." I replayed it 3 times before I realized what they meant. The clouds must have cleared for a few minutes. The fallout dust settled enough for the light to break through. I wish I'd seen it. If you're somewhere you can still see the stars, remember that. Write it down. Don't let the sky go extinct in your memory. 9:13 a.m. The hum under my feet wavers again, then steadies. The smell of diesel's thicker. I'll have to cut the generator for 15 minutes soon to bleed the line. If the signal drops, count to 900 seconds and tune back in. I'll be here. While the power holds, I'll read another message. This one's from 2 blocks north, scrawled in pencil. We're still in the high school gym. 47 people, 3 babies, 1 radio. Food for 2 more days. We can hear you clear as glass. If you can, tell anyone with antibiotics to head this way. We'll trade blankets, batteries, even gas. Just say the word on air. You're heard. If anyone near Grand River and 14th has extra medicine or bandages, mark a red cloth outside and move during the day. Stay in sight of the street. Don't go alone. People keep asking me what to hold on to. I don't have a perfect answer, but here's what I've learned in these 8 days. Hold on to anything that still responds. Machines, voices, light, doesn't matter. When something answers you, it means the world hasn't gone fully silent yet. It's 9:18 a.m. now. The building shakes a little when the wind hits from the north. I used to hate that sound. Now it's proof the city's still got bones strong enough to shudder. I'll leave the mic live while I step out to check the generator. If it cuts, wait. If you hear static, don't turn the dial. That noise means the line's still open, even if I'm not talking. You're listening to WQKR 940 AM, Detroit. My name's Jack Rowley. It's 9:19 a.m. and we're still here.